In this clip, Shia LaBeouf shares a little of his testimony. He gets into the power of prayer, also the power of suffering, and what is ultimately our purpose in life. As always, Bishop Barron offers timely and wise insights. Be sure to activate your mind and thumb, like if you think that what Jesus says is way more important than what Joe Rogan has to say. Also, let me know your opinions on this clip in the comment section below.
Yeah.
And I don't know nothing about prayer because I can't cultivate an unforgiving, I don't know anything about silence. I don't know anything about quiet. I don't know anything about it. I got a cell phone in my phone that will give me everything my ego needs. It's buzzing all the time. I got all this, there is no silence, or I don't know anything about meditation. Meditation at this point in my life feels like a self-imposed timeout. Prayer feels like I'm memorizing somebody else's words, like I'm an actor, like I'm doing monologues for myself in my head. And Alex says, just go into that chapel and just shut up.
Where the Blessed Sacrament is.
Yes,
Yeah.
and just sit there. Just sit there and be quiet. And that feels like a very strange thing to tell me, and I'm also rebelling. And right around this time, you and the deacons show up for like this deacons meeting.
Well, that's the first time I met you.
It's the first time I meet you.
Okay.
The deacons are all hanging out at the church.
Right.
And I feel like, oh, this is like, wow, it's amazing. I get to sit in here, and I feel like I'm not allowed to be there. But then all the deacons are like being really warm with me, and I'm sitting in the back.
It was Mass first, right?
It's Mass.
Then, yeah.
We do Mass, and then we go like have a little sandwich.
Right.
And you do this talk about prayer.
Yeah.
And how it's really a simple 4-step process, prayer, and I needed somebody to simplify it for me, because it felt like, one, I needed it to be defined. I didn't want it to be this esoteric. I needed something very defined and very practical. I needed something very like boots on the ground. And you said, quiet leads to loving thoughts leads to loving action leads to peace. And that hit me heavy.
It was Mother Teresa I was quoting there. That's
whoever it was, it's changed my life. So then you go into pray rosary.
Yeah.
And I'm just learning rosary at this time. I know the front half. I don't know all the prayers. I can do, I can get to the middle of the rosary. I don't know the dismount prayers, but I have enough to like, it pauses my head, which I guess what rosary does for a lot of people. It makes it tactile.
It's a great prayer, right?
It takes me out of the cognitive and it puts me into the physical. It physicalizes it. And for somehow that pauses all of my internal nonstop chitter-chatter monologuing of what I want and what I need in this animal in me.
It calms the monkey mind. That was Merton's line that he got from the Buddhists, actually. The monkey mind's always leaping around.
Yes.
Here, and it calms that. It calms that and centers it.
Yeah, and makes me feel present. Because it's right here.
Right.
I can hold it.
You hold it in your hand.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we're praying the rosary, and I'm waiting for loving thoughts, and it's not my first or second or third or fourth or fifth or sixth or seventh thought. But then I hear a thought like, call your mother, tell her you love her. Now, me and my mother at this time, my mother don't want nothing to do with me. You know, the news that had come out has been like I've been abusive to women, and I've been shooting dogs, and I've been willingly giving women STDs, and like it's disgusting. It's depraved. And my mother is embarrassed beyond all imagination. She doesn't want nothing to do with me. And we hadn't talked. And I'm living in this parking lot. And I get out of rosary with you, and I call my mother, and I say, I don't have much to say to you, but I love you and I'm safe. And she said, oh, I'm so grateful. And she hangs up the phone, and it's the first time I had really like talked to my mother, and I felt this peace. Because I had all this resentment and animosity, like, how could you dip on me? You're my mother. No matter what happens, like, this is conditional love that you offer me. So, then I start reading the Confessions by Augustine and his mother and that relationship. And everything starts to feel like click, 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 click.
Right.
And Augustine being like a hedonist who had made all these flaws. And then they started explaining Francis to me and all this ego that was in Francis. Just a complete egomaniac.
Same story, right.
Yeah, like, and I start feeling all these connections, and I start seeing this route. And and it says, let go. And I find a way for myself. This is all before we're even in the movie. I'm not even reading the script yet. I'm just like laying the ground, I'm not even in a Pio yet. I'm passing Pio's statue every day, and I'm kissing him on the hand just out of like reverence for the statue. Yeah. But I don't know anything about the man yet. Then I get to reading about Pio and about suffering. Now, this is another hack that happens to me at some point where I felt like my suffering was pointless. I didn't understand what was going on. I felt like, and Father James walks me through like offering your suffering up as a purposeful. as like intrinsically valuable, that God taps certain people to go through certain suffering so that they can be more effective at bringing the good news forward. And we start talking about purpose. And I'm questioning like what my purpose is, because before this moment, my purpose was just to be a good actor. My purpose was just to be the best actor. That was my whole purpose in life, like just such a little dream, like the dream of an ant.
Yeah.
And James says, you know, what are you good at? And I'm like, I'm good at bleeding in front of people. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, that's what I do. You know, I sort of just throw myself at walls. They film me. People tell me it's good. That's all I know how to do. He's like, okay, so you're good at suffering. How are you going to help other people with that? I was like, I guess I'll make movies and stuff. And he's like, yeah, but what else? And we start getting deep off into this conversation and what the arithmetic of purpose is. And James says, you find out what you're good at first. You find out how you can help other people with that. And that is your purpose.
Yeah.
And that's the leapfrog.
Right. I mean, there's so many spiritual principles that you're talking about. And what's cool to me is you were learning them not abstractly, not from a book. You were living through them, and you had some good people guiding you. But, you know, one of them is the whole attachment, detachment thing, which every spiritual master talks about. I mean, ancient, medieval, modern, every master, is you've got to hunger for God. We all do, which is infinite hunger. It's what everybody wants. Sam Harris wants it, trust me. But we hook it on to something in this world. So we say it's wealth, it's power, it's pleasure, it's my career, it's whatever it is. It's going to make me happy. And of course it can't, because the desire is infinite. So it can't be filled up by anything.
Yeah, there's no ceiling.
Right. So you keep throwing things in, more and more and more and more. And of course it doesn't work. And that's how we get addicted, which is, I think, why attachment in the classical spiritual masters is very much like addiction today, that we know a lot about, that we get addicted to these things. And you're addicted to sex or to booze or to drugs or to success or to my own ego, all that stuff, So you would wander down that path.
I was wearing a success mask for 30 years.
But see, it's like the, did you ever see this thing? It was Jim Carrey. It was a really funny little routine he did. It was at the Golden Globes. And he gets up and he said, this is not just Jim Carrey speaking to you. This is 2-time Golden Globe winner, Jim Carrey. And then he said, what I dream about at night is that someday I will be 3-time Golden Globe winner, and then the quest will be over. And they all laugh, but it was perfect. It was a perfect little parody of that problem, So you're in there, and I'm thinking of Chesterton, G.K. Chesterton. Have you read him at all? He has that wonderful line from one of his Father Brown stories, these detective stories, and that God will let us drift to the end of the world, but then by a twitch upon the thread, will call us back, And so you're talking about having wandered a long way, but then this twitch on the thread came, and it was this whole weird Padre Pio movie. And then these people whom I know, everyone you're talking about, I know these guys very well. And strangely, they weren't trying to get something out of you. I mean, you had nothing to really offer them.
Nothing to offer them.
But they were just there to say, okay, we're going to draw you into our world here just by our friendship and laughter. Then we're going to draw you a little
If they didn't do it for fun and for free, I'd have never heard anything they said. I wouldn't have heard word one.
Right.
Because I would have ripped them apart because, this is a transaction and you're doing it because of this and that and this and that.
Yeah, like Father James, who I know very well, if someone said, this guy, he's a really famous actor, and if you get to, he's like, I don't care.
He didn't care at all.
He wouldn't care at all.
No, he didn't care at all.
No, and that's what made him a powerful.
Yes.
And what he said to you, that's the move now from addiction, and then we reach out to the Lord, not to the things of the world. But then the next move is always mission.